Hi, audience. Welcome to ECCSC Live. I'm your host, Tyrone Muhammad. We have another exciting show for you today. To my right is Mr. Maxwell Little. How you doing, Maxwell?
How you doing, Tyrone?
Maxwell, I want this time to be about you and the policies that I would like the people to know that you've been putting forth and all the efforts that you've been doing with the Level Up to Vote and 10 by 10 to win. So please, for the audience, let the audience know who you are, what you do, and the objective of your organization.
My name is Maxwell Little. I am from Chicago, Illinois. Born and raised here on the south side of Chicago. I attended Hirsch High School during high school. Then I graduated. I went to DePaul University, where I got my undergraduate degree in leadership studies. And then after that, I went to the University of Missouri, where I got my master's in educational leadership and policy analysis in 2016. And now I'm back in Chicago, pushing to change the conditions of black people and my community in Chicago, period. It's not about the South or West Side, it's about the black community in Chicago, period. One of the policies that I'm currently working on with State Representative LaShawn Ford, yourself, Reven Fellows, Randy, and Stephen, I believe his name.
Yes, Steve.
Right?
Yes.
Basically, what I'm trying to push is to strengthen the hiring process in the Chicago Police Department, particularly looking at the educational qualifications for Chicago police officers. Because right now, currently, you only have to have 60 college credit hours to become a police officer. And you can have 60 college credit hours in anything. It could be basket weaving, bubblegum wrapping, graphic design, and you can take the test.
You saying the police officers that's in training or to be that will potentially be on the police force,
Right.
only need 60 credit hours of anything to be in law enforcement. Not legal credits, not constitutional law.
Not anything. Is just 60 college credits. And to me, that's dangerous. To me, that's dangerous because the majority of police officers in Chicago are white. And the majority of them come from the suburbs. They never had any interactions with black people, Latino people, and communities of color. And I'm not going to lie. I'm going to put it out there. The majority of them are racist.
Yes.
The Department of Justice investigation report that they released last year in 2017 indicates that we have a systemic issue within Chicago Police Department, which is dangerous. They commit violence towards black people and Latino people, breaking constitutional laws and amendments each and every day. And they aren't being held accountable by city officials. So one of my policies is to push the educational requirements, is to strengthen the educational requirements by demanding that each and every officer has courses in critical race theory. Critical race theory basically teaches individuals how to challenge, critique, and basically examine systems, and to examine systems in order to analyze how an individual is complicit within a system that oppresses individuals and communities of color. So I believe that the Chicago Police Department as a whole and every individual who patrols the streets would benefit from critical race theory courses.
Yeah, that's excellent. Let's hold that point. We have a caller. Maybe the caller can have some questions for you in that regards. Let's go, caller. How you doing?
Yes, thank you for taking my call. And I want to make a couple of points. Number one, yes, it is true that in order to qualify to become a Chicago police officer, one needs a bare minimum of 60 credit hours. But that's just the baseline. It certainly does not require that is the only standard that is used. In other words, if you have a pool of applicants, and in almost all cases we do with every new pool, the persons who are applying, many exceed those standards by and large. Secondly, there was a time not that many years ago when we didn't require any college education whatsoever. And this idea about teaching a certain course, yes, we do need to teach psychology, sociology, we need to teach public policy, but the idea of critical race theory, I mean, certainly if you want to be a policymaker, that's a wonderful thing. But how it's going to help someone in terms of law enforcement on the streets, given that there's a huge debate with regard to the validity of the claims made within the context of critical race theory, is problematic to say the least. So we need to ask ourselves, what practical classes can we ask and demand of our law enforcement officials in terms of their being able to do that job? Because they're not going to sit out there and have a philosophical debate with someone as to how their lives led them to shoot someone and kill them on that street. When they have to arrest them and take them in to be booked. That's a different story. And quite frankly, we're asking police to do something that our society should be doing.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir, caller. Excellent point. What's your name, caller?
Steve.
Thank you, Steve, for calling in, and hopefully we'll hear some more from you. You sound like a very enlightened individual and great points. You want to take another call before we address that?
Sure.
Let's get another call in, please.
Yes, this is Ray.
Hey, Ray.
I missed you guys last week.
All right.
Steve there always gives the intelligent side of the story, which is okay. I'm going to give you my side of the story. I don't have all the degrees in this or that. The young man next to you says about the police being racist, and they're not the only ones. The aldermen are racist also.
Yeah.
Both of them, African American and Latino, and I'm going to tell you why. They're letting lawbreakers, the illegal immigrants, live here, Sanctuary City, safe zone. While all the rest of us Chicagoans, U.S. citizens, don't have a safe zone. Wherever we go in the city, all that money that's going to them to be going to programs to help educate, get jobs for the ex-convicts. But no, they'd rather not. They'd rather give it to illegal. I'm Mexican American, and that irked me. Because I went to fight Vietnam War for all U.S. citizens. All, whether ex-convicts or this or that, not illegal aliens that are taking the money away from us for you guys to start programs. That's all I have to say. And, I don't have all them degrees, but I come from the street. So thank you so much.
Thank you again, Ray. We appreciate your call every week. And I'm sorry you missed last week, but we still appreciate you whenever you call. Thank you, Ray. So, Maxwell, what you think about what Ray said and Steve?
Well, to Ray, I come from the street as well. Even though I have a master's degree, that's really not my education. My education is from the community. I learned more from the community than I learned at the University of Missouri, Columbia. But to go back to Steve's point, it was an educator that once told me you can change in order to change the mind. She said education can change the mind and it can also transform behavior.
Yes. So
right now, if the officers don't have any rigorous curriculum or any rigorous educational requirements, they can come in with any type of education. They can come in with any type of prejudice beliefs, any type of implicit bias beliefs, or the racism that they carry from their neighborhoods or their community, and they can come in to the police department unchallenged. But if we challenge those minds, then maybe they can change.
Yes, sir.
And if we don't do that, then we are failing the community and we are also failing the police officers.
My question is, though, is education truly enough? We have a lot of educated dumb people.
Exactly.
Is education truly enough to transform a heart of an individual when his mind is set on?
Right.
We see a lot of policy makers, but the policies that they make or put forth never seems to help the people that in need of policy.
Right.
So is education really enough?
Education is not enough, but education should be at the forefront. To change an individual's heart, that's an individual choice. But when you have access to something that's critical and that's challenging systems of oppression, such as critical race theory, and challenging American legal liberalism and how it looks from the lens from people of color,
Yes, sir.
then you can look at it and maybe you want to change your heart, but changing the mind will eventually change the heart.
When I think of that, the de-escalation, for instance, like those type of trainers, how do you get police officers to buy into reaching for your taser before you reach for your gun? When the laws that set forth do not penalize them for being so hasty, to being so quick on the draw. It doesn't benefit. Actually, the unions, they shield them when they make those type of kills, or they call righteous kills, or whatever the terminology police officer use. I'm just thinking that how do you educate a person into humanism, humanity, love for humanity, where I would think to shoot them in the leg first before I think to shoot them in the heart.
Right. So, after you get the education, I believe you have to have the lived experiences. So it takes individuals like yourself.
Yes, sir.
When I saw that video and how you was able to intervene and de-escalate that situation and save that young man's life that day, you are the expert that needs to be able to teach the police department. And in my policy, I wrote that we need de-escalation experts and community advocates such as yourself within place, because you have the lived experiences of going through a lot of things within the street and can be able to communicate with people on the street every day to be able to de-escalate situations. So I believe the police the police department has to reach out to individuals like yourself.
Communities have to be involved. I want to get back to that point. We have another caller. Caller, please. We would like to hear from you.
Yes, I just wanted to add this. It becomes particularly problematic when we have some of these discussions because so many of the policies we talk about are double-edged swords. On the one hand, if we advocate that police officers be better educated, for instance, let's say that we move the standard to, say, demanding someone have a degree in social sciences or criminology, and that they actually have a bachelor's degree. Well, that becomes problematic in that if we're trying to create a more diverse police force in a city such as Chicago, that means that the standards now exclude more African Americans from being able to become police officers, because as we know, there's a disparity between educational attainment in terms of higher education. So when we say, well, now we require a bachelor's degree, how many percentage of the applicants are you now effectively eliminating with people of color? And secondly, and I don't want to get too far off the point, but, real-life policing is not the movies. Police officers are never taught to shoot someone in the leg because this is not lethal weapon. That is not the way it works in reality. If you know about firearms, you were taught to shoot center of mass, and anyone who tries to shoot somebody in the arm or the leg, even at 10, 15 feet, again, this is not the movies. That's not going to work, and it's bad policing. And in all likelihood, you're going to end up shooting the wrong person. So again, we need to talk about things as they are in terms of the research.
Thank you again, caller.
Can I address that?
Please.
So first of all, it is a myth that African American males or African American women do not hold 4-year degrees. Actually, a 4-year education in the African American community is actually on the rise and is steadily increasing. Secondly, it was a study done in 2003. Joshua Crowell and John Green, I believe, they conducted a study called Shoot or Don't Shoot. It basically you had to press a button when you saw an individual, either black or white, holding an object, whether that object was a gun or a harmless object, such as a wallet or a flashlight. And the results clearly represented a racial disparity because the majority of individuals that were shot by pressing a button were black individuals. Were males. So we understand that it is a racial problem in policing. It goes back to slavery. In the 1700s when they had the Slave Patrol Act, the white plantation worker had the obligation to go track down runaway slaves. And that's where really policing comes from. So we have to start with, educating and also teaching officers what it looks like to go into communities that looks different from theirs. Because at Lollapalooza, the de-escalation tactics that they use for them white people out there enjoying that music and getting high and all that, they don't use those same de-escalation
Rap
tactics
comes.
in a black neighborhood. So education is at the forefront, and it should be at the forefront.
Excellent. See, we have another caller. Caller?
Yes, I had to respond to a couple of points. One, unfortunately, at Lollapalooza, there is no threat, nor has there historically been one, of the people who attend that particular event as being individuals who are going around shooting each other, killing each other, or anything else. So the idea that we need to use particularly aggressive policing methods on a group of people that have demonstrated that they're not a threat to anybody doesn't make any sense. There's a reason why we have more aggressive policing techniques in a community where you have extreme amounts of violence. For people who don't know it, 80% of the murders in the city of Chicago took place in 5 communities last year. So, we need to recognize that. And also, in terms of the question of enough people of color relative to their educational attainment, it is not the case that there aren't people of color who have a bachelor's degree, for instance. However, as you move up the scale relative to education, African Americans are 13% of the population. However, relative to their white counterparts, they are a third as likely to hold a bachelor's degree. So that means when you start to have a pool of people who are applying and you say to them, I want the standard to be higher to become a Chicago police officer, that means you lower the pool of African Americans who are able to apply by that standard. It is not that no African Americans can apply. It is just that the pool becomes lesser.
Yes. In response to that, I would say this, man. Police accountability, lack of black officers with the sensitivities of the community, or lack of white officers having the sensitivities of the community, who are a part of the community, who live amongst or in the very community or areas of those they police. This is why I don't think at this point we will ever get to that. That's why de-escalation, having community individuals that also works in lieu or instead, you know what I'm saying, in proximity to the officers that are scheduled to be there, where I know this officer on this beat and I know this individual, where we are equipped with scanners and all the likes, that we able to respond or even be in a situation where crime, we also put ourselves at risk as well when we want to save our communities. So what I'm saying is, I believe that in order for that policing to work, you have to include the communities and those connected to the communities, because I know and you know that those individuals that work out, that live outside of our community, don't necessarily have the identity or the sensitivity as you or I would in the community.
Exactly, and they don't understand the culture as well. So individuals who have the expertise to de-escalate situations must be the first responders in our community. The police can no longer come from outside the community where they don't live in and come in to police our neighborhoods. It just doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in response to that gentleman, I think that was Steve again, do you see like the narrative or the correlation you use with the Lollapalooza? Can you clarify that for the people that's listening?
Yeah.
What you meant by that and protect?
So at Lollapalooza, if it wasn't really covered on the news because the mainstream media chose not to cover it. But there were over 116 people, I believe, who were not arrested, but got into altercations with the police officers.
Yes.
There were a number of drug overdoses, and I believe there was over 30 arrests or something like that, and I believe one individual died. So it was a lot of police presence there, but a lot of individuals didn't get arrested, or force wasn't used because those are white kids who come from the suburbs. To me, that's biased, because let that have been something, an event in Washington Park where a lot of black kids or black teenagers were partying and drinking and having fun, the situation probably would have been different. So I believe that just because you have a 4-year degree or just because you have 60 college credit hours. You have to have, it has to be meaning behind that, that curriculum, behind that education that you have. And critical race theory is to me is the answer to that. Because you can have a 4-year degree in psychology, but if you never had, any curriculum or any type of courses that, challenge or teach you about oppression, or teach you about systemic oppression within communities of color, how that comes down on communities of color, how white supremacy looks, how white supremacy works in institutions, then you really don't understand communities.
Right. That's when, in that case, shouldn't that critical race theory question or training include in the curriculum those individuals actually volunteering,
Right.
participating
It has to.
in after-school program or even conflict resolution
It has to.
as it relates to the interaction with the street organizations and gangs, as they call them? How would that look?
It has to. The Department of Justice investigation report mentioned the word black over 72 times, and in those 72 times, you can just see the social degradation that black people experience from the police. And the Attorney General, they passed a dissent decree recently, and now the community has a chance to input for change that they would like to see inside the Chicago Police Department. And de-escalation was one of the first interventions that they reported that the Chicago police had to become better at.
Yes, sir.
And the dissent decree offers community input. So they want us to, offer our input as far as what we want to see change. And de-escalation experts such as yourself and community activists and advocates who deal with individuals on the street every day have to be at the forefront. They have to be at the table working with policymakers in Chicago Police Department.
See, people, this is what we're dealing with. For those who don't know, if this is your first time tuning in, ECCSC, Ex-Cons for Community and Social Change, was created out of a longing and a need and a desire to see change in the communities and the streets, our neighborhoods, to see a decrease in the prison industrial complex. So as men who sat back in those cells and watched our young sons, nephews, cousins coming in and out of prison, and some that would never return home. Because in my case, my little brother has 85 years in prison. How do he get his life back?
Right.
And all I'm saying is, this is the need, this is the process. Ex-Cons for Community and Social Change, Maxwell, we thought that since we are the ones who destroyed the community, sometimes with no fault of our own, or even enough understanding to know how we got to the fruit. You know what I'm saying? We understand that it was a root, but we don't understand how we became the fruit of that tree.
Right.
So ex-cons figured, okay, we'll stop allowing other people, looking for other people to take responsibility of our community. And we said when we come home, we will be the ones to push policy, to bring brothers like yourself on board who can do research, who can do case study, and let us do the groundwork, the hard work. Let us interact and let the policymakers do the policy. But without the people on the ground, without these individuals on the streets, without us communicating with our sons that we love them, really love them, and we've been where they've been, then I don't think we can touch them. So we need the whole community, and ECCSC just happened to be a component of that community. And brothers like yourself, would you like to say anything further? And lastly, as it relates to your organization, what it is you all doing, even the level up the vote, and explain to people what that's about with the millennials.
Yeah, currently I organize with 10 by 10 to Win. It is a 1 million voter block. We're building 1 million votes, 1 million voters. Currently 650,000 black registered voters in the city of Chicago. Right now, the black population in the city of Chicago represents the largest population in the city of Chicago at 33%. And we feel that if we build a voter block and we put our votes together, then we can change the conditions in our community, because we'll be able to select and elect our own candidates. Another thing I'm working with, Level Up and Vote. It is a millennial organization where we're trying to galvanize as many millennials and organizations in the city of Chicago to come together and also establish another voting block and increase the millennial voting population, because right now the millennial voting population in the city of Chicago is very low. So, and also I'm working with you, State Representative Ford, Reven Fellows and other fellows. Yesterday we actually met. That was our third meeting, if I'm correct.
Yes, sir.
And this Wednesday we are going to have a press conference at the Illinois State.
Well, yeah,
Building.
Illinois State Building. And we look forward to having you all there. Well, there will be a flyer posted soon. So you can go to ECCSC Facebook page. I'll be posting the flyer as well as the website. So that's anything else you would like to add?
Just in closing, that we have to have individuals who have the lived experiences at the table when we're making policies. We can no longer allow elected officials who do not care about our communities to make all the policies that are basically detrimental to our communities. And in closing, I'm also considering running for 18th Ward Alderman in Chicago. I look forward to...
Who's in that ward currently?
Currently is Derek Curtis.
Derek Curtis.
And he vote 90% of the time with the mayor on policies that have been clearly detrimental, like school closings, raising taxes, property taxes, ticket fine taxes. I mean, ticket fine, which is another form of tax revenue for the city. So we have to get him out of there, and I'm strongly considering running for that position.
So how can the people contact you? And
The people can contact me on my Facebook. My name is Maxwell Omowale Justice. That name was given to Malcolm X when he went to Africa. Also, the people can contact me on Twitter at MaxHPF and also on Instagram at MaxJustice24.
Well, people, look, thank you for tuning in again. I would like to say in closing that if it's going to be done, we got to do it. It's on us to do it. Listen, all hands on deck to save our sons. Violence in Chicago is not new, and violence in Chicago will not stop solely relying on the law enforcement and legislators to legislate. As I said before, I went to prison and I received 40 years. My little brother went to prison for the same crime and he received 85 years. What did the crime change? What I'm saying is a policy change. So I'm saying if we have to make society as well as policy maker realize that giving a man more time is not going to change the crime. That the crime is still the same, in some cases worse. So we're here to help. Please use us. We're servants, we're community servants. We're not just activists. I see myself as a community servant. ECCSC see themselves as community servants, and we will continue to serve our community until there is no more crime to de-escalate or get rid of. So please, thank you for tuning in. Continue to tune in and share our story, people. Take care. Peace.
Thank you.